Welcome to Neighbor to Neighbor. My name is Lynn Corum. I'm your host today, and I'm here today with Carolyn Heydinger. Carolyn, thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's really an honor to be here.
We asked you to come, and we scheduled you while you're still here in town because you're away at school.
Yes, I am. I go to school. I go to Georgetown University in Washington, D.C.
And your first year, second year, how many years? Where are you in that process?
I'm going to be a sophomore, and so far it's been absolutely wonderful. It's just, D.C. is an amazing place to be, especially when you're interested in politics, and it's no complaints.
Yeah. Well, most people have met you through watching you perform the speech you gave for the American Legion contest. And what happened there? Did you like speaking? Did you like researching? Did you like politics, or all of the above that got you interested in that?
Actually, when I started, I didn't really like any of them. My first semester, sophomore year at the high school, I was in Bill Holliday's social studies class. And he was the one who suggested I get involved. And I mean, I knew what the Constitution was, but I had never done any research with it. And so I got involved in this. And the first time up there, it was just the most terrifying experience of my life. But having done the research and everything, it was really exhilarating because I just developed this passion for the Constitution. And so once that passion was there, I found the courage to finally be able to speak about it. And as I did more and more competitions, it got easier, and it was really the best experience of my life.
Now, the structure of that, for sort of other students who might be interested in it, the American Legion here has a competition.
Yes.
And that's the first one. And then do you, where's the second one? If you win that one.
It's different, or actually it might be the same every year. It's in White River.
And does only the winner from here go?
Yes.
And you only have one practice in front of that group here?
Yes, you have. But after the local competition, sometimes we would get a group of community members and I would be able to deliver my speech to them. The whole community was so supportive throughout the whole thing, especially the members of the Legion, who were just absolutely amazing, and I'm so grateful to them for all they did for me. But then, so there's that competition in White River Junction, and that's the districts. And then the location of the state competition changes every year, but then there's the state, and then there's the nationals.
And you came in what on the nationals? I know it's...
My senior year, I placed second in the nationals.
And had you done it your sophomore and junior years too?
Yes.
Oh, so you were really involved with practicing for this, and I mean knew what you're getting into.
I did.
Time.
Wasn't
a one-shot deal. No.
Yeah, well, my sophomore and junior year, I didn't make it past the state level. In my senior year, I was playing basketball, applying to colleges, and I was just...
And added this to your list?
Yeah, actually, I didn't play basketball my senior year, but with the college applications, I was like, there's no way I can do this because this competition just takes a tremendous amount of time. And so I say to my mom, I don't think I can do it, and she's like, don't do it. And just because she sees the time that goes into this. And I was like, okay, I'm going to give it one more try. And so I did. I completely rewrote my speech, and again, the Legion was so supportive, and it just really makes you want to participate. And I had this amazing coach who just came, Zachary Gates. He was a local attorney, and he just completely volunteered his time and coached me, and it was fun.
It was great, huh?
Yeah, it was great.
Well, congratulations again on all that hard work.
Thank you.
Yeah. And now you say you fell in love with the Constitution. Can you summarize for us that love?
Well, oh goodness. I sound like a complete nerd talking like this, but, oh, sorry. But, like last summer, I was just driving. I did a lot of driving, and I would listen to an audio tape of the Constitution, just because I found it so interesting.
What is it the Constitution, the preamble, the main part, or the amendments, or is it just the language that pulls you in?
It's, first of all, the Bill of Rights and just the controversy that goes on. Like, these men wrote this document that we still live by, and it's just completely fascinating to me. And we have added amendments, but just the different ways you can interpret and just the controversy that goes on because of this basic framework of our government. It's just absolutely fascinating.
And have you read the Federalist Papers too?
I have read some of the Federalist Papers, the 10th. Not all of them, but
well, there's
something I would love to do, yes.
That seems to be a book. I have not personally read it, but it seems to be a book often when you read other serious writing, they refer to it a lot. So it's probably something we should all put on our list.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What book, since we're talking about books a little bit, what book do you think influenced you the most? You mentioned Killer Angels, but what do you think?
Well, it's a difficult question because I love to read, but up until a year or two ago, it was completely for fun. It was Harry Potter, and I just finished Eat, Pray, Love, which was really great. But this past year, I came up with this goal of reading a biography of every president, and I'm only on number 3, but I just finished Team of Rivals by Doris Goodwin Kearns.
Kearns Goodwin.
Kearns Goodwin, yeah, I wasn't sure which one went first there. Yeah. And it was absolutely fascinating and amazing to read. It's the story of Abraham Lincoln and his cabinet. And just to read that was completely inspiring. And
I think you realize how little we really learn in high school. The learning process goes so far beyond that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But high school's a good start. And in high school, you went to Brattleboro Union High School. And tell us about your experience up there and some of the things that might have jogged you in the direction you're going today.
Well, the social studies department at the high school is great. They are so supportive, and they have all these opportunities that they make possible for you, like Bill Holliday, who is the one who got me involved with the public speaking. And my junior year, I took this amazing course called Civic Leadership with Tim Kipp. And that was really probably the single most experience that got me to love or to do what I'm doing today. It was just...
And what was the gist of that civic leadership? Was it reading current events or studying issues? And why is the debate, and what is the debate about? I mean, what was that course about?
Well, there was again, it was my junior year, so it was it's a little fuzzy, but there was a volunteer portion, or you had to get involved with some organization or some volunteer work, which really taught you how to be a good community member. And then it was a lot of intensive readings just about current events and about our civic duties as citizens, and it was a class completely based on discussion. Sometimes he would pose a question at the beginning of class, and then the 20 or so students in the class would debate on that topic for the rest of the period.
And the debate, did you get better at debating? All of you as a class together, did you know, was the objective to support your position and maybe get some people to agree with your position at all? Or how did that grow?
Well,
in your skills?
It was one thing I was impressed with was how respectful people were of others' opinions. And I guess it was trying to convince others to think the same way, but most people in that class knew their position and it wasn't going to change. So it was more about hearing the other perspectives and dealing with the other perspectives in a respectful way.
Okay. Anything else at the high school that got you interested in what you've done? You know, the direction you're going into, interest, I guess, in politics at this point down in Georgetown.
Yeah. Well, right now I'm undeclared, but I do plan to major in government. But the high school, we live in a very liberal area, and the liberal education, well, some people may think about it and say, oh, there's an obvious bias here. It really helped me to grow. And even though I tend to think more conservatively, it really let me choose what path I was going to take.
Did it help you frame your conservative arguments better, knowing that you were like not in the majority opinion?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It taught me to be more careful about what I say, for sure. Just because
it would come back at you if you weren't.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, I think most conservatives in this area feel that way. When you stick your head out of the foxhole, if you're going to say something, you want it to be at least correct.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and this summer, we'll get back to college a little bit later, but this summer you're working doing what?
This summer I am volunteering for Brian Dubie's campaign, and it's a lot of grassroots work, a lot of phone calls, going door to door, and it's definitely been an eye-opening experience.
Well, expand on that a little bit for us. What territory do you have?
I have Brattleboro and Vernon, and it's really hard work. It's gives me a lot of respect for politicians and to see what they go through. Like, I know when Patty O'Donnell was running for state representative, how she had to go door to door and do the same kind of stuff that I'm doing right now. You
have to put yourself out there.
Yeah, you really do.
And what is it? I don't know if people look at you like you're, here comes the Avon lady or not. But what do you find the response has been towards you?
Well, it differs.
Are we a warm, welcoming community?
Sometimes. Some people, no matter what their political views, they may support a Democrat, they may be totally anti-Dubie, but they are incredibly respectful, and I can have some great conversations with them. And I love that. I love hearing their opinions, and I completely respect that. It's when people are rude about others' opinions. I've had doors slammed in my face, I've been sworn at, and it's just...
Really? That's tough.
It's hard work, but and for a while it made me kind of reconsider the path I am planning on taking. But then working with Dubie himself, really, because when he comes down here, when I go up there, he's so down to earth and just the nicest man. And it really makes me realize why I'm doing what I'm doing, because he's such a great person to work for.
Yeah. What do you think people, if you came to the door and I really didn't want to chat with you about politics, if I said, I really don't want to chat right now, thank you very much. Is that what people should say, as opposed to swearing at you, kind of thing?
Yeah, absolutely.
And you wouldn't say, you wouldn't say in my face.
Oh, no.
Keep going.
It's not really a political question that I'm asking them. I knock on the door and I say, we're trying to figure out what's important to you. can you tell us what issue is most important to you between jobs and the economy, taxes and spending, healthcare, education, or the environment? And that's all. That's
all
the
you're
only
asking?
question. Yes, and then if they're willing to answer that, we ask, do you know who you support yet? And most people say, no, I don't know. And so I'm like, great, here's our card, like, read this over.
Do they know you're a Doobie supporter? Do you have a little thing?
I don't, but I say I am a volunteer for Brian Doobie's campaign.
In the very beginning?
Yes.
Yes, so that pegs you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, I mean, a lot of people are great about it, no matter who they support. But then you do get a couple who are like, God bless your soul. And it's, I don't know.
God bless your soul. That could be taken two ways, Carolyn. It could be like, we feel really sorry for you, or thank you for what you're doing.
Oh, it's not. Well, I have heard both, for sure.
Well, we'll pray for you.
Well, thank you.
Both ways. I wanted to get back to a little bit. One of the criticisms that conservatives have of colleges and education in general, and you're a testament that you didn't feel that was what you found at the high school, is a liberal slant where other people. I've heard students say they have to write a paper a certain way to get an A.
Okay.
And so they, parrot whatever the teacher said, whether they believe it or not. Mm-hmm. Now, what you're doing down in Georgetown, that's a pretty famous school for attracting good students. How do you find that college environment?
Well, in my opinion, any college environment is going to be more on the liberal side, just because people are young and it's a time of your life where you're supposed to be trying to figure out who you are and experimenting, trying new things. And so, yes, it is a liberal campus. However, I had a government course first semester, and we took all these surveys, and we figured out that of the government majors and this government class in particular, it was about 60-40 with more conservatives in the class.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was very interesting.
Surprising, huh?
So the campus as a whole would probably be totally different. But within that class, and probably within most government majors in the department, that was the case. And that was my favorite class that I've taken. It was United States Political Systems, and back to the topic of books, we read this great book called Moral Politics by George Lakoff, I believe. And it really tells you why liberals think the way they do and why conservatives think the way they do. And at the end of the course, I had no idea what my professor's political standings were, what party he affiliated with. And when we wrote op-ed pieces as our main writing pieces. We wrote 2 sets, and for both sets we had to write 1 pro and 1 con. So one of mine was the missile shield in Eastern Europe, and I wrote 1 from Obama's perspective and 1 from Bush's perspective. And then he would grade it as a package. So he had no idea
even what you thought.
Yeah, exactly. And it was a great class, and I loved it.
Well, I think you find, too, if you go into the business school, you'll find more conservative people there, too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I've just read a book by Thomas Sowell. I can't quite remember the title, but it's basically how trying to figure out why liberals think the way they do and conservatives think the way they do, the constrained and unconstrained view. Constrained are liberals. The constrained are conservative. The unconstrained are liberals. In other words, they just think that government should just keep growing and finding its way.
Yeah.
And the constrained view states that we'll take from the experiences of the past, we'll change only if we think it needs to be changed, and there's proof that it changed. But it's interesting how it's almost like a gene, I think, of how you just really feel that way. Or it's very interesting, and maybe that book, The Moral, talked about that.
Well, what Moral Politics really focused on was family structure. and how the family you grew up in and the structure it had really is the main influence of your political beliefs and party affiliation. It was fascinating.
Well, you know, that's really fascinating. I think I've written that one down, because the family is under, the family is, I think, is the last bastion of independence from a government.
Oh, absolutely.
And you know, I think the government's trying to, you know, some people in the government, you know, this takes a village to raise a child. That means you can't do it yourself. We'll take care of it for you. Does you know, maybe there's an argument to me that really maybe undermines the family in some ways. That kind of thinking. So that sounds very interesting.
Yeah,
book.
You would love it. It's a great book.
Yeah, I'll try to get to that one. So you haven't declared your major in college yet.
No.
And which is probably smart. That gives you wiggle room, as we say. But do you have any, since you've studied the Constitution so thoroughly and you are in government type classes, as a young person, how do you see the direction of the country? I mean, what will that mean to you and your generation?
Oh, that's a tough question. One obvious thing is the debt, the growing debt, and it's the number something like 13 trillion. It's just so large that it's hard to comprehend. But kids my age, like, you wonder how much we think about it because we have all of these other issues like healthcare, and is it a God-given right? If it is, then we need to continue to pour more funds into this when we don't have the revenue to repay. And I'm not saying if it is or if it isn't, but we do need to figure out a way to repay this debt. And the way to do this is by taxes increasing, and it's my generation that's going to have to deal with all of this.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I've in some of my readings said that, you know, they'll tell us today, you know, you're putting this debt on your children and your grandchildren. But typically, one generation really doesn't care what happens to the other generation, which I find very surprising since we all have children and grandchildren.
Yeah.
But I think that's held up with, you know, they'll easily kick, one generation will easily kick the can down the road and let you deal with it. And I don't know if you're aware of these figures, but when Carter was in office, we had a recession, and he put 30% more money into the economy at that time. And that took Paul Volcker, who was head of the Treasury, he had to raise interest rates to 18% to start to pull that money back to get things level. Under this stimulus package, we put 120% more money in. Now, if it took 18% interest rates with 30%, what's it going to take? That's that X out there. What's it going to take to pull 120% back? It just flabbergasts me. I have no idea.
Yeah.
But when you go to buy a house or something, if interest rates are low now, but I don't know much longer they can stay there. It's very scary. And we also have Social Security as another thing that's going broke. And I heard just on the news this morning that your generation will have a cut of 24% of Social Security, even though you'll probably have to put more in than we ever did. So
wow. Well,
I hope you all guys are all educated and going to have good jobs.
It just comes down to the question, what is the government's responsibility, and how much can we continue to spend when we can't continue to pay back? Yeah. And are people in your generation thinking about that, do you think? Yes, in the back of their minds. It's not the issue. The hot issues are healthcare and the war in Iraq and how much are we spending there. And because these issues take priority over the debt, at least this is what I think my generation. Don't do that. Sorry. This is what I think my generation is thinking. Yeah. Well, it's so interesting that your generation's so caught up in healthcare. I can see one way, because they're going to have to pay for it in a big way. And but they're the most healthy. They're not even going to use it. Yeah. So that's a little funny, isn't it? When you think about it. Well, it's what you see on the news.
Yeah, I guess what that
it's
is.
the hot issue, so everyone wants to have a say in it.
Speaking of hot issues, this one I didn't let you know ahead of time. What do you think about the mosque at Ground Zero?
Oh, goodness. I just
hot,
don't know.
Really hot
It
right
is.
now.
I saw Obama talking about it on CNN yesterday, and it's, I mean, can you tell someone that they can't?
You know the Constitution.
I don't know.
You know the Constitution, though.
I know what the Constitution says, but I have not yet developed an opinion regarding it.
Well, I heard on the radio, I think that the Catholic Church was going to build some kind of a place for a convent or something close to Auschwitz in Germany or in Poland, Auschwitz in Poland. And the Pope basically said, no, this is a Jewish place. We don't need the Catholics here. And there are 100 mosques already in New York City, which I thought was just phenomenal. I had no idea.
Wow.
And so we'll have to see how this all sorts out. But
Yeah,
again, it'll be that great debate.
Interesting. Yeah.
A great debate. Well, thank you for sharing with us, Carolyn.
Thank you.
This has been an interesting. I think you're one of the first we've had of your generation on the show, so I may have to do more of this.
Well, thank you very much.
Are thinking. Great. And we thank you for watching. You've been watching Neighbor to Neighbor. My name is Lynn Corum. I've been here with Carolyn Heydinger, and we hope to see you on our next show.